Well, the year continues on and is almost over. Welcome to this week's Living Torah as we get to what is actually, it may not be my favorite Torah portion, but I can tell you it is really high on the list, and I'll explain that in just a few moments. A lot going on, of course, as we come to the end of 2023. A lot going on in Israel with, we now see some hostage negotiations. This is Tuesday when I'm recording. By Tuesday afternoon, everything could be totally different. Over 130 IDF soldiers have lost their lives. Literally thousands are wounded. And I ask you, I plead with you to make it a daily part of your prayers, to pray for the IDF, for the men and women, young men, young women. Most of them, if you look at the death toll, most of them are in their 20s, and they're right there on the front lines. This war is far from over. We do see some things that are happening as far as airlines that are now planning to in January fly in, Lufthansa and others. Yes, as soon as possible, I'll probably be planning a trip over just to spend some time to encourage people. We continue to send funds. I just sent 3 donations yesterday to Israel, and we are. I mean, it may be a drop in the bucket, but it's at least is our drop. And I want to just say thank you to each person, each of you who has been donating, who have been giving. I had some that in your Hanukkah celebrations, your Hanukkah services, you received offerings there and sent it along. Thank you so much for that. And also to those who have been so generous this year of keeping the ministry of Joy to Hashem solvent so that we can do what we're doing. I thought we've been spending so much and have our focus has been so much on Israel here in recent days, that in recent months, that and we give we're continually giving to Israel. It's not just in times of crisis, but I have been focusing so much there that we did have some things, needs regarding ministry, equipment-wise, and I was planning on having to sit down this morning and give you that and kind of make an appeal, and well, somebody took care of that, so I don't have to deal with that. So thank you to those that have continued to give so generously during this time, that you understand the concept that without a ministry, there is nothing for us to give out of. So let me move on. All right, we get into this Torah portion. I don't know that this is, it's not really my favorite Torah portion to teach on. I'm not sure if I have one that's my favorite to teach on, but it is, if I was pinned down to a couple of Torah portions of what drives me. Of course, there would be the Torah portion of Exodus and the Hebrews coming out of Egypt, but probably next in line would be this one, and this amazing Torah portion of He Approached, just because of the context and what is happening and the prophetic significance of it all. Now, it begins by saying, in Hebrew, it actually is not, in English, it's then Yehuda approached Yosef, but in Hebrew it is, and approached Yehuda. It does not say Yosef there, and the wording "and approached" is, of course, different because of the way that Hebrew is spoken. So in order for us to understand the first verse of this Torah portion, let's go back one. And it says in verse 17, "And he replied, 'Heaven forbid that I should act in such a way. The man in whose possession the goblet was found will be my slave. But as for you, go in peace to your father.'" Consider this, that, of course, the boys, maybe Benjamin, but the boys do not know who Joseph is. And that is maybe the hardest thing for us to really imagine and consider, that this brother Joseph could have been so far disconnected in his mannerisms, in his speech, in his accent, in his clothing, in his looks, that the brothers could not recognize him. You know, you see today, you may think about a long lost sibling, and you look and go, wow, they look exactly the same, or I can see the similarities. There was after all of this time that Joseph was in Egypt, that he looked the part, he talked the part, he acted the part, to the place that the brothers could not figure out. And I know there's probably some supernatural veils that are going on. Yeah, I got that. But in the natural sense, he is so far removed that they cannot recognize him. And with this, the Benjamin comes to the forefront, and the negotiations are now regarding Benjamin. And Joseph, under, again, the direction of the father, Joseph recreates the setting that he was once placed in, to the point that, it's, let's kill him, and Judah steps up, and no, let's sell him, which is, in a way, even more selfish than possibly Simeon. I personally believe it was Simeon, but it was more selfish for Judah to say, let's sell him, than let's kill him, because if they killed him, there's no benefit at all, but they're wanting to benefit off of their brothers going missing. They then lied to their dad, washed their hands of the whole thing. But all of these years, and again, the book of Jasher, and I don't uphold Jasher as, at the level of Scripture, but Jasher has some interesting points in there. And one of them is that they always thought about, they talked about, they knew that Joseph is still alive. How is it that in the midst of the grief of all of those years, every day probably their dad is saying, if Joseph was here, there's still a place set at the table for Joseph. He has that coat of many colors that is stained with blood, and he has that in his bedroom, okay? And after all of these years, no one ever came clean and said, Dad, we have something to tell you. So Joseph reenacts this thing, puts them into that place, and to the point that it is about Joseph's little brother Benjamin, who the goblet and the grain came together in his pack. And I believe this is prophetic of you and I, that there is a remnant of people right now that are possessing both their faith and their obedience. That you and I have in our pack, our lives, that we have been given a revelation of the blood of redemption, and that redemption brings us to obedience in the Torah, in that order, that it is faith in and obedience to, in that order. But there is a move in this movement today to begin to separate. Okay, go through. I just read in recent weeks, I just read the book of Revelation. Again, at least twice it talks about those who have faith in Yeshua and are zealous for or obedient to the Torah. You and I are the enemy. A people who have faith and obedience will be fought at every level. And there is a move within this movement for people to say, well, maybe it's not just really that important for us to be obedient. Well, let's allow that grain to be taken back out. You and I need to be fighting for that. We have been given a job, and that job is to be the center of what will be the reunion of the family in the end. And so Benjamin is placed there, and the reenactment causes Judah, Yehuda, to step to the forefront. He says, be Adonai. He actually looks at Joseph and says Adon, literally Adon, which is to say Lord or Master. So he acknowledges the place that Joseph is in Egypt. Now, again, you and I are not in that culture. You know, you think about, you go to a high school board meeting or something, or you go to a political rally, and you know, in a moment of emotion, you say something in the crowd. All of a sudden, you know, if you're high enough, in a place that's high enough, you get Secret Service all around you, and you find yourself in handcuffs. You find yourself with you know, all kinds of issues. You do this at a school board meeting, and you're harassed, and you know, we all know the stories, okay? But that's America. That's the United States, where I'm voicing this from. In that day, when Yehuda approaches Joseph without permission, Joseph could have, with one wave of his hand, caused Yehuda to be put to death instantly. There would not be a court trial. There would not be an appeals process. There would be nothing. All he had to do was make one motion, and Yehuda is laying on the ground, bleeding, and is dead. So Yehuda is putting his own life in jeopardy for his brother Benjamin. And that is the beginning of the redemption. That is the beginning of the process of reuniting. He went from let's sell him to, which is the selfishness of Yehuda, to now he is pleading for his stepbrother. This is, you know, Benjamin is not his real brother by birth mother, okay? This is his stepbrother. And he is pleading for him to the point of jeopardizing his own life. Now, this takes me, at least, to the verse that, and I've mentioned these verses before, but I personally believe that a lot of what is happening in the world today, with the war in Israel, with the political upheaval, with all of these things, the Father has a plan and purpose, and is bringing forth, through the affairs of mankind, is bringing forth his purposes. And what will that be? Here's a verse for you to pray into. Now, when you begin to do this, don't be surprised if the Father starts instructing you to change some attitudes, okay? Because here it is, and this is Isaiah chapter 11, starting in verse 12. He will hoist a banner for the Goyim, assemble the dispersed of Israel. I could spend a lot of time teaching on that. I'm not going to. Gather the scattered of Yehuda from the four corners of the earth. Here it is. Ephraim's jealousy will cease. Those who harass Yehuda will be cut off. Ephraim will stop envying Yehuda, and Yehuda will stop provoking Ephraim. I challenge you to read the rest of the chapter on your own. It's very, very prophetic there in nature of what is happening today. What is that verse about? That verse is about us acting like a functioning family, not a dysfunctional family. Events are happening today that are asking us, that are provoking us, that are challenging us to act like the family that we are supposed to be instead of the family that we have been. Now, for Yehuda specifically, and this is prophetic of the Jewish people, Yehuda is now acting in the place of the lion. We know that, we see the lion of the tribe of Judah, and that meme is all over social media these days. The lion of the tribe of Judah, but considering that an immature lion is selfish. If you go back and study the attributes of a lion, kind of like with any other child, they're very self-centered. But a mature lion will put their own life at risk for the family. And that is what is happening here with Judah. He is putting his own life at risk for the family. Now, we know the story, okay? We know the interaction. We can read about the interaction, kind of the negotiations here between Yehuda and Joseph. But the what is happening inside of Joseph is is where it really comes down to for me. Because Yehuda, in his negotiations, he is speaking to a place in Joseph's life that is beyond the hurts of the past. Let me begin to read this. At last, Yosef could no longer control his feelings in front of his attendants and cried, "Everybody away from me. Get everybody out of here." So no one else was with him when Joseph revealed to his brothers who he was. He wept aloud, and the Egyptians heard, and Pharaoh's household heard. Yosef said to his brothers, "Ani Yosef." I think, he probably yelled those words. Ani Yosef. I am Joseph. Can you imagine? You imagine the picture? All of a sudden, Joseph's brothers are standing there looking at each other going, what did he say? Did he just say what I said? What I think he said? And is it even possible that up until this point that he is speaking Egyptian? Think about that. That he is speaking from a pagan language with interpretation, or in Hebrew with a very Egyptian accent. And all of a sudden, he pulls out everything that he can of his Egyptian upbringing, even to the point of trying the best he possibly can to speak without the accent. He says, Ani Yosef. It is true. Is it true that my father is still alive? His brothers couldn't answer, and they were dumbfounded at seeing it. Yosef said to his brothers, please come closer. And they came closer, and he said, Ani Yosef Aki. I am your brother. There was this, I know that Hanok and I will be talking about this on the Israel Update, because this is a Torah portion we share a great fondness for, of the revelation of the family coming together. As we consider it today, a lot of people think that, I've come into my Hebrew roots, and I've learned a few words of Hebrew, and I can say the blessings on Shabbat, and I eat kosher you don't really eat kosher. I don't actually eat kosher. I eat, according to Leviticus chapter 23, that which is clean and unclean. Kosher is a different level. I observe Shabbat, the festivals, and so we must be on the same page. The truth is, we're still a long ways away. We are a long ways away. I just recorded a message this month called The Baggage of History. If you have not received that, and that goes out to all of our those that support this ministry automatically, but it's not about money. So if you want to, anybody that'd like a copy of that message, no strings attached, okay, none at all. If you'd like a copy of that message, just send me an email. You can go to my website, jointohashem.org, and you can send me an email. I'll be glad to send you the MP3 version of that. Because it's important for us to understand the history, the baggage that we have as a family. You and I, as most of us Gentile by birth, we've come into this and we're excited and we're enthusiastic, but most people do not understand the baggage that comes with it. We want to share this newfound lifestyle, not knowing what has happened for the last 1,700 to 2,000 years, and why the rest of the family is not real thrilled with us. These are things that we need to know, because in the end, this story, this account, is one of love overcoming hurts. In order to overcome a hurt, we must understand the hurt, but then begin to develop a love that goes beyond the hurts. What are we doing? What are we doing today with Israel, with prayers for Israel? And you say, well, Mike, I have contacts, and I do. I've got numerous contacts, but all of us, many of us are on social media, and it doesn't take very long. I mean, if you friend Hanok, if you friend me, you're going to end up somewhere along the way. It's going to be, suggestions, and you begin to see these people in Israel that they don't have the same beliefs that I do. I believe we're in the same book, but our book has a few extra books in it, and we've got some major disagreements with those things. But what stops you from friending someone in Israel and then showing love unconditionally? The vast majority of people are not able to do that because of Christian background that it was hammered into us of evangelism. That evangelism was the first thing. It was who was it? D. James Kennedy that talked about the relationship. That we need to develop relationship with people. But even with that, are we developing a relationship so as to at some time put our agenda forth? Or is the relationship just about love? Just about loving someone to the point that we overcome the hurts of the past, and that is the goal. And there's no other goal. Whatever the Father has in the midst of that, then that's up to Him. But we're just in it to overcome and to love this family unconditionally. Period. End of story. Nothing else. That is the story that is laid out in front of us with Joseph and these boys. Now, I mean, I think this chapter could probably go on and on and on and on with what was happening in that room in that day. The conversations, the wait a minute, how did this happen? What do you mean? that Potiphar threw you in jail? What do you mean you were lied about with Mrs. Potiphar? What do you mean that you've been storing grain? How did all this happen? The backstory of this was intriguing to them in the same way that in the end, when we see the end of all of this happen, the backstory, the twists and turns, all of the things that the Father has done along the way to bring this about, we're going to just stand back in awe and be humbled that we were allowed to even be part of the story in spite of ourselves, I think is kind of what we're going to figure. Now, it takes an interesting twist here in that Joseph says to the boys, there's still 5 more years of famine left. So you need to go and get our brother or our father and bring him down to Egypt. Excuse me. Wait a minute. Hasn't the reunion has happened? Is it not possible for Joseph to say to Pharaoh, I've stored all this stuff and it's time for me to go home? Do you mind if we make trips like once every couple of months or so to come down and get some grain for the next 5 years? I mean, I've stored enough. But instead, he says to the Pharaoh that I'm gonna continue my commitment here, and I'm bringing my father to Egypt. Is it possible that in the process of everything, that it is a human trait to jump ahead of the Father's plan? That somehow to shortcut the system, somehow to get around it. Well, this has all happened, and I see the earthquakes and the famines and the wars and the rumors of wars, and let's just go ahead and go to the end. When instead, no, there's still some things that have to be done. One of those is, and I've never really figured this one out. I mean, I'm sure that there are people that have other insights into the scripture that I don't have. Maybe it's just that I'm okay with watching it happen and then going, oh, that's what's happening. Because for the most part, there's been a lot of times when I thought that I knew what was going to happen and found out I was wrong. So I just figured the easiest way to not be wrong is to wait and see how it happens and then point to it and say, that's what happened. Instead of, that was, I didn't see that coming. Well, I don't see it coming anyway, but at least I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It makes a whole lot better sense than what I was thinking along the way. You might can relate to those things. So he brings, Joseph brings his father down to Egypt, which means he's bringing Jacob into exile. And exile will continue for another 5 years. Instead of Joseph going to Canaan, the family goes into exile. Now, how is that going to be? What is going to happen there? I don't know. But what is the purpose? Let me float one to you here. If we can't get along outside of the quote-unquote promised land, what's the chances we're not going to get along inside of it? Think about that. If and I know that there's people that continue to this rumor continues to go. Well, the Knesset is passing bills and they're discussing what to do with Ephraim and the nations. No, they're not. Maybe the only one that he's not even in the Knesset anymore. Yehuda Glick, I think, has a basic understanding of Ephraim and the 10 tribes and the reunion there. But for the most part, the Knesset members, well, For the most part, many of the Knesset members can't figure out if they should be eating shrimp or not. Okay? I mean, that's just the way it is. They're not concerned about you. They're not thinking about you. They're not thinking about Ephraim on a daily basis or anytime basis. But what would happen if all of a sudden, Israel opens up the borders and allows all of us that are, following Torah to enter in? Yeah. How would that be? So we're going to go from exile in our dysfunction to Israel with dysfunction. So how about let's take the disagreements over the name and the calendars and all of these other things, and let's just take that in with us. Yeah, if we can't get together and get along in exile, we probably don't need to be in the land yet. Something to think about. Now, as Joseph tells the boys, he's sending them back to his father, and he says a couple things that I think are very, very, is in a way is a little comical to me. First of all, he says, moreover, this is verse 19 of chapter 45. Moreover, and this is an order, do this, take wagons from the land of Egypt to carry your little ones and your wives, and bring your father and come. Don't worry about your stuff, because everything good in the land of Egypt is yours. Now, don't worry about your stuff. Let me give you just a little bit more to that one. The word that is translated by David Stern, worry, is the word emotion. It would be, I think, better translated compassion, pity. So what do you mean compassion over our stuff? And stuff is a pretty good word there, actually. It is kind of it's your weapons, your furniture, your articles, your stuff. Okay, great word there. It's not Hebrew, but I don't know what the word Hebrew how that would directly translate. But it is. Here's how I translate it. Don't be concerned about the things that you are emotionally connected to. Let's say that all of a sudden that greater Exodus thing, which nothing against those that teach on the greater Exodus, but I just personally don't believe that we really know what it's going to look like, because I just don't, okay? I think there's a lot of great surprises along the way there. So let's say that all of a sudden we are and I'm not setting a date, okay? I'm just saying this, okay? Just to get you thinking. Let's consider that this Passover is the one that you open the door and there's Elijah, and he says, "Okay, everybody, come with me. Only those of you who have a staff in your hand, shoes on your feet, and ate the meal in haste, you guys come with me." What is it that you're going to do the Lot's wife about? Okay, what is it that you're going to turn around and want to get? What is it that you're emotionally attached to? Is it your beans, your bullets, your Band-Aids? What is it that we are emotionally attached to that would keep us from leaving everything of exile to begin a journey? Not as the family here is doing, leaving the land of Canaan for exile, but the reverse of leaving exile for the land of Canaan. That is the story, by the way, of the book of Exodus, of a people that could never leave the emotional attachment to the stuff, of Egypt: the leeks, the cucumbers, the fish, and the garlic. Let's make a decision today. Let's consider this today, that there's nothing in this world that I should be emotionally attached to the point that I'm not willing to leave it for His purposes and plans. Now, it goes on and says in verse 24, thus he sent his brothers on their way, and they left. And he said to them, don't quarrel among yourselves while you're traveling. Didn't Joseph know his brothers well? He really did. I mean, this is perfect. And I think these are words that should be spoken. This may be the motto for the greater Exodus, or should be the motto for the greater Exodus. Don't quarrel among yourselves while you're traveling. Now, there's only one way that we're going to not quarrel among ourselves while we're traveling, is if we've decided to not quarrel now. There has to come a day that you say, this is the last day. I'm no longer going to be a part of quarreling. Let me give you an easy one to start with, okay? You see a Facebook post. Okay? I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I do little on Instagram because I don't even understand the purpose of it and don't want to. I just do that for life on purpose. But on Facebook, there are many posts out there that it's like bait. All right, you're like a fish that's looking at a worm, and that worm is wiggling around a little bit. You haven't eaten in a while, and it's like, I know that there's a hook there, because the last time that I did this, I felt that hook. The last time I was drug out of this water, I was on the edge of death, and just happened to be blessed to the point that the fisherman that hooked me believed in catch and release, as opposed to me as a fisherman, I believe in fillet and release, okay? So that's just a difference. But this little fish is going, the last time that I took the bait on that hook, it caused some pain. I got out of it. I'm not sure if that will happen again, but I got to go for it anyway. And so you take your keyboard, your phone in hand, and you take the bait of quarreling, knowing that it's going to work out bad, knowing that you're going to get in the midst of this discussion, and you're going to be drugged down by mental midgets, and you're going to be beaten within an inch of your life, your social media life. What about a decision, I'm not going there anymore? Let people quarrel by themselves. You know, it says it takes two to tango. Yeah, if one person decides, I'm not into tangoing, that would be me. If one person decides, I'm not into tangoing, the person that tangos by themselves looks stupid on the dance floor. Let people look stupid by themselves. Let people quarrel by themselves. Don't get drugged out onto the dance floor so that you become a spectacle for others to watch as you're beaten down. We need to learn, and this word of quarrel is the word shaken. It is become shaken. It's like, it actually has the connotation of an earthquake, of a quivering, of a fear, that all of a sudden we forget who's in control of this thing coming about, and think that somehow I need to be involved in such a way that I'm making decisions about. No, I don't need to be involved. I just need to be the one that hopefully is doing my part in the direction of going to the place that I'm supposed to go to and helping others to go there too. Now, in chapter 46, moving on, Yaakov, it is evident that in the process of this, though he wants to see Yosef, it's like, but wait a minute, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Yosef is questioning whether he should be leaving the promised land or not. The last time that he did, remember, it was it was a bit of a deal with Esau, his brother, Laban, his deception. He's like, wait a minute. The last time I left these borders, yeah, it worked out okay, but look what I had to go through, and I'm a little older now. I just don't have the energy for that one more time. So he's questioning. It says he arrived at Beersheba, offered sacrifices to Elohim, the Elohim of his father Isaac. In a vision at night, Elohim called to Israel, Yaakov, Yaakov. He answered, here I am. I am Elohim, the Elohim of your father. Don't be afraid to go down to Egypt. Notice the wording. What does he say? He says to Israel, Yaakov, Yaakov. He called to the person that is Israel, the person who the Almighty sees as complete. But he calls him by his name Yaakov, seeing him as who he is and seeing him who he is going to be at the same time. That is something that you and I should take heart in. I hope that somehow along the way in these last few weeks I've been able to get this over, portray this in a way that it makes sense. The Father sees us as we are. I know, I don't like that either. But he also sees us as we're going to be. And his drive to see us as we're going to be keeps him involved in our life as we are. There's one thing. I know all the attributes. I've read all the attributes of the Almighty. But there's one attribute that may be beyond, none of them can I comprehend, okay? Let me back up on that one. I don't understand his love. I don't understand all of those things. But one thing that is beyond the incomprehensible comprehension, that's not a real sentence probably, is his patience. How he has patience, not only for his family as a whole, but for me as an individual, I can't figure that one out. I am just thankful for it. And that's really the end of the story. Thanking him for his patience in seeing us as we are and still remaining engaged and involved in our lives because he knows the people we're going to become, the person we're going to become. If you can figure that one out, you let me know. In the end, exile is part of the process. Yeah, I would have done this different. You would have probably done this different. But exile is part of the process. But understanding our place in exile is very important. And that's at the end of the chapter when it says, now when Pharaoh summons you and asks, what is your occupation? Tell him, your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth until now, both we and our ancestors. This will ensure that you live in the land of Goshen, for any shepherd is abhorrent to the Egyptians. In Goshen, in Egypt, the Father set a place that would be a safe place, if you would, that would be disconnected in a way from the lifestyle, from many of the traditions of Egypt. Egypt was full of paganism. You and I may look around us, especially in this week. I don't even want to go, I probably got to go one more time, but I don't even want to go to the store this week because, to walking out of the store and trying to get grandma got run over by a reindeer out of your head is really difficult. And you're asking yourself, how can you put someone back into this day that was never there to begin with? And I know that this week, as I interact with some guys, and probably, with the men's league on Thursday, I think the weather's going to be nice enough that they're all going to be asking me, are you ready for Christmas? I'm going to quote Hanok. I'm going to say, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. People are going to be wishing you all. It's like, thank you. Okay, there's no reason to turn around and and yell at them. I just I wonder today, why doesn't an atheist celebrate Christmas? That's just dumb. Why would you do that? Because of the roots of it all. Okay, but I'm not gonna, unless somebody's asking the question, and I'll be more than willing to answer. But for the most part, people don't really want to know the truth, okay? You find one once in a while that wants to know truth. Others just, it's just something they're doing. So, I'm waiting to get past this, as probably most of you are. Egypt was a place of paganism, the same as what we live in. But he gave the Hebrews a place, a safe place. A place that they could establish that would not be affected by the paganism of that day. As we'll continue to read, they didn't like that. And the reason they ended up spending not just the 5 years, I know that it's prophesied, I got that. But the reason that they ended up not just spending 5 years in Egypt, but over 200 in Egypt, is because they figured out they liked the paganism. They liked the lifestyle of Egypt, of the exile. You and I are kind of making the reverse here. We're in a place, we've been raised in a place of exile and didn't even know it. We've been raised in a place of paganism and didn't even know it. And we're trying to establish a Goshen. Instead of trying to figure out ways to flee Goshen, the place of safety, the place of His Word, the place of obedience. Instead of trying to flee it, we should be trying to figure out how to make that our home, so that we're living in our Goshen, but visiting Egypt, instead of living in Egypt and visiting our Goshen. Think about that one later on. You heard it here first. Now, it goes on quickly, and Egypt prospers. The Hebrews are in Egypt. Egypt prospers. Why do the nations prosper? Why is it that nations today still prosper? That exile still prospers? Because God's got a purpose. He has a plan, and we haven't read the end of the story yet. But I think that from what I see happening around us, the end of the story is closer than the beginning. It's like opening a book. We're closer to the back cover than we are to the front cover. We just need to keep reading. And to keep reading, we need to keep living. We need to keep our obedience to what we are reading, and therefore staying in the game, staying in the story. There were others in Scripture that they exited the story. May we not be those. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem, God willing, see you again next week. And, get through the week. It'll be okay. Be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha Shalom.